The great state of Kentucky, and Representative Paul Tanco from the great state of New York. I thank you both for being here, and Mr. Barr, you are recognized for 5 minutes for your opening statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Letta. Thank you to Chairman Walden as well, and to Mr. Cardenas and the ranking member for holding this hearing on our legislation, H.R. 2651, the Horse Racing Integrity Act. When I was first elected to Congress, I dedicated my service to promoting the signature industries of Kentucky, and nothing is more synonymous with our Commonwealth than thoroughbred breeding and horse racing. My district, in particular, holds the title Horse Capital of the World. Now, 11 of the 13 Triple Crown winners were foaled in the 6th District, including the most recent champion, Justify. Lexington, Kentucky is surrounded by more than 400 world-class horse farms, including Ashford Stud, the home of the last Triple Crown winner, American Pharoah. And Keeneland Racecourse hosts many notable races, including the Toyota Bluegrass Stakes and the 2015 Breeders' Cup. However, this sport is not only prominent in our district, but horse racing is truly a national sport. Therefore, advocating for this industry requires more than just celebrating a proud heritage. With the privilege of representing the horse capital of the world comes the responsibility of fighting for its future. And as the chairman pointed out, this is not just a sport. This is an industry with enormous economic benefit and enormous impact in terms of job creation. That's why I, with my fellow co-chair of the Congressional Horse Caucus, Representative Paul Tanco, introduced the Horse Racing Integrity Act to enact reforms that would ensure the industry continues to grow and prosper. Currently regulated by 38 separate jurisdictions, our signature racing industry labors under a patchwork of conflicting and inconsistent state-based rules governing prohibited substances, lab accreditation, testing, and penalties for violations. This lack of uniformity has impeded interstate commerce, compromised the international competitiveness of the industry, and undermined public confidence in the integrity of our sport. H.R. 2651 would remedy these problems by authorizing the creation of a non-governmental anti-doping authority, the Horse Racing Anti-Doping and Medication Control Authority, governed by representatives of all major constituencies of the industry and responsible for implementing a national uniform medication program for the horse racing industry. Today, you will hear from many supporters of this bill, and you will hear from critics of this legislation on the panels to follow. The critics will say that this legislation will create a new duplicative regulatory bureaucracy at the federal level and will duplicate what states are already doing. They will say it increases regulation. They will say it bans Lasix, which is currently legal to administer on race day in the United States. And they will say they have concerns with the ability of the United States Anti-Doping Agency to regulate this program. But it's true that the industry has made notable strides in recent years to adopt uniform standards. The work of the Racing Medication and Testing Consortium and the NTRA's Safety Integrity Alliance has been positive and should be commended. But to date, only 11 of the 38 racing jurisdictions with laws permitting parimutuel horse racing have adopted all 4 elements of the National Uniform Medication Program. The remaining state racing jurisdictions operate under only rules applicable to that state and have great variances. Of the leading racing states like New York, California, Florida, or Kentucky, none have fully implemented NUMP. As a conservative who believes in federalism and states' rights, I also understand that the Constitution gives Congress the power to regulate interstate commerce precisely for the purpose of eliminating these kinds of impediments to interstate exchange. A national uniform medication program is not about creating more bureaucracy or more regulation. In fact, this legislation reduces regulations by replacing 38 state-by-state regulatory regimes with a single national uniform set of standards. To address concerns with the dispersion of specific drugs, H.R. 2651 does not ban the administration of Lasix for truly therapeutic purposes. Rather, it prohibits trainers from administering these drugs on race day, so it preserves out-of-competition therapeutic administration. This would bring U.S. regulation in line with other horse racing counterparts in places like Europe, Dubai, and Hong Kong, ultimately eliminating the perception of unfair competition and enhancing the reputation of U.S. racing on an international level, which is important for the international sales and exports of our breeding stock as well. Finally, USADA's involvement through the HADA would bring the sport independence, expertise, and credibility. The HADA will be made up of USADA and industry officials, thus benefiting from the experience of officials and individuals tasked with addressing the challenges presented in horse racing today. And H.R. 2651 would address many of the issues confronting the industry, increase the popularity and public confidence and international competitiveness of the sport. In the wake of Justify's historic Triple Crown, it is important we use this momentum to continue to fight for the future of this special industry. And I yield back.
Thank you very much. The gentleman from Kentucky yields back, and the chair now recognizes the gentleman from New York.